The first question I have is out of all of the classes that we have with QD, most of them are pretty clear. You know what debate is, you
Yeah,
know what limited prep is.
yeah.
What is this deal with oral interpretation and the classes associated with it? Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, oral interpretation is like basically acting for those who are not in the speech and debate world. Within oral interpretation, there's a lot of different categories. We have a humorous interpretation, we have drama, we have prose, we have poetry. For the more advanced events, we have um, POE, which is public oral interpretation, which combines aspects of um, public address and all the interp events so that it's like this giant this like awesome like 10-minute program of like centralized around the theme.
Hmm. Well, I can see where one would use limited prep or debate or business.
Yeah.
How, if I'm not an actor and I'm not going into any of those kinds of careers, why would I want my child or myself to take this kind of class?
It's actually awesome that you mentioned impromptu because this week, or by the time that this video is going to be posting earlier, last week we had two videos by Coach Hill where we talked about impromptu and we talked about the importance of structure, and that once we gain an understanding of structure, then we start to think, like to develop quick thinking skills. And the awesome way that this translates into interp is that we're able to add emotions and vocal tones into the mix. So we're not just talking about facts in interp, we're acting out a story. So all of these emotions and all of these scenarios that we get to practice in real life, well, is a great place to, practice in interp speeches.
Well, I'm sort of playing devil's advocate because
Oh, absolutely.
when I got involved in speech competition, I wouldn't go near debate. I was an interpreter, believe it or not. I was limited prep
Oh,
and interp.
yeah.
And the amazing thing is the better interpreter I became, the better platformer I became, the better debater I became. And the
Whoa.
reason being is we forget that a large part of our communication is emotions. And by learning how to act or interpret and bring those emotions across when I'm talking or persuading or debating, my message got so much more powerful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, another benefit of interp is that before language, there was our vision. So it's before we could really learn how to understand how to speak, we needed to learn how to communicate. And a lot of communication is based on seeing other people. And in interp, we make a lot of use of that through our facial expressions and our body language. So that means when, even though we, for when we're talking to other people and they might be speaking in a different way, or they might even be speaking a different language, we're able to see the basic message that they're trying to convey using our facial expressions.
I've taught a lot of oral interpretation classes, even in my basic classes, AOPS and others. We still teach them that using your body language and your facial expressions and capitalizing on emotional delivery makes things
Yeah.
so much more believable and persuasive. I mean, we can even see that happening now as we speak. The DNC is happening, and you see all of these people from all over the country standing up and showcasing their, public speaking skills. And what's funny is you can see the ones who haven't practiced their emotions.
Absolutely.
And you see the ones like Michelle Obama and Barack Obama who really know how to capitalize on those emotions. And I think they got that from learning how to do interpretive events.
The DNC is a very particular place that also has a lot of interp skills in play. So we just talked about a lot of prominent politicians like look a certain way and convey like their credibility as authoritative figures. Well, a lot of that practice, the visual aspect of it is are things that we can get in interp speaking. So when we are able to like show people visually that we are authoritative, that we are credible, that we are persuasive, it helps the audience see, wow, okay, maybe this person does have something to say. Maybe the message that this person, that the speaker is trying to convey is a lot more important than we're led to think. Maybe I want to listen a little bit more to this person because they know what they're talking about and they're clearly showing that they know what they know.
If I'm a parent and I'm going to put my child in one of these interpretive classes run by QD,
Yeah.
what can they expect and what can I expect? How's that process work?
Yeah. So the very first thing is going to qdlearning.com/enroll, checking out our classes and see the classes that best fit your schedule. You can go online, you can go in person. We have options for absolutely everyone. But, once you get yourself enrolled, maybe even tell a friend, get a referral for a future 10% credit, shameless plug, not so shameless plug. Um, First day of class, you'll get in and you'll be able to have this whole introduction on, the overview of the class. And then once we learn about the techniques or like the events one by one, the students get to pick a favorite and the students get to pick a story, either from our novice level repository, or once they get even more advanced in the varsity level, they get to engage in picking a whole competitive story with the coaching staff. And they get to practice how to memorize it. They get to practice the emotional parts of it, the whole narrative arc, and they get to practice these until they get to competition. And by applying these skills in competition, we get to see a lot of anxiety taken away. We get to see a lot more confidence. We get to see a lot more, we'll say, practice in a lot of different situations in everyday life. And overall, you'll see the benefits of your students becoming a lot more bigger than they were at the start of the semester or even at the start of the school year.
I've had students who really they never really thought about being an actor. In fact, I would classify them probably as introverts or at least
Yeah,
people who have, terrible stage fright. We call it technically communication apprehension. So, like you, I've had
yeah.
kids show up in my class, they don't want to say anything, they just want to kind of sit in the corner. What advice would you give to parents who are trying to break their kid out of that shy shell?
The best way to break out of the shy shell is by starting small. So in our classrooms, we don't have a million people. We don't have a whole TED Talks video worth of people in the classroom. We have a whole classroom's amount of people in the classroom, including our coaches. So that means that, over time, because over the course of the semester, our students will get to know each other. They'll kind of start taking away some of the stress because it's things that they become even more comfortable with. Like once they become more comfortable with their classmates, then they'll get the comfort to practice their skills, get even better. And then, through these tournaments, like they'll slowly increase the number of people in each room until the end of the day, once they do really well, then it might not still be like a TED Talk amount of people, but like, a whole like 20, 30 plus people in a room can be very nerve-wracking for someone who's completely new, but for someone who's been practicing for a while, like it makes a whole nother difference.